Yes. What's behind me? IROC's back. I know some of y'all are thrilled to see this. It's been a long time coming. Today we're going to see if we can get this girl back together and running again. She ran, she stopped running for whatever reason. It's got fuel, it's got fire, but it's not running. So let me tell you what we're going to try. I've purchased a wiring harness from, I think it was an 88 or an 89 IROC. I had to buy a bunch of stuff to get it. By the way, if y'all are in the need for tune port injection parts, holler at your boy. I got a bunch of stuff. But anyways, we're going to throw another harness in it. I have a brand new computer to go in it. I have a custom flashed ECU. We're changing over from the old style distributor, which was a 2-year only distributor in these cars, and they sucked, to the newer style distributor, which is the small cap distributor. And we'll see if this old girl will come back to life. I need her to run. She needs to run. Just for my own sanity, I need this car to run. So anyways, I'm gonna get to work, and we'll see how it goes. All right, we're gonna start this one a little different. I have found a bunch of tune port injected stuff. This is my buddy Lee. We're headed to Georgia. We're gonna take y'all along. I'll see if the guy will let me film there. Who knows, but I'll show y'all what we get. Let's go. Made it up here to this guy's place. He's got some awesome stuff. You know you're at the right place when there's cars sitting everywhere. But this is a mass air pressure harness, and it's in great shape. So I'm going to put this in the car. We're just going to get rid of the mass airflow. We'll stop chasing that. But I also bought all of this brand new aftermarket harness as well, but I probably won't run that. And boxes of stuff. So I'm gonna load all this stuff up, and we'll check it out when we get to the house. But mass airflow can't throw a code if you don't have it. Look what else he's got sitting here. LS1 powered 67, right?
Correct.
67. This thing is sharp. Look at the interior.
Yeah, my dad was in 3 tours. Matter of fact, when he gets back, y'all probably have a whole lot more about that. Yeah, he volunteered for 3 tours.
I'm gonna go up and show y'all a GMC Suburban that he's built too. It's bad. Look at this bourbon. Fuel injected, late model overdrive. Let me show you the inside.
That's the autometer dash. It's the 7004 series autometer. This is display option 1. You can go to display 2. Or if you like the traditional, it still shows it just like the old traditional GMC dash.
That's super cool.
Yep. I like this one here. It's just a little different for this truck. That, and it looks almost exactly like the one in my Dodge, so.
Yeah, that's cool. So this is the pile I got yesterday. It's quite a bit of stuff here. I'm actually going to unload it off this cart. It was late last night when we got back. The place I picked this stuff up was about 2.5 hours away from my house. So by the time I finally got home, and it was raining. I had to drive through the mountains. It was crazy. But I just threw it on my little dolly cart thing and wheeled it in the house. I know some of y'all think I should just get rid of the tune port and go with a carburetor. As you can tell, I'm a tune port guy. So we have some parts now. So I'm going to clean this up in here, lay this all out, and we'll kind of go through it, and I'll show you some of the highlights of what I got. Here's a look at everything I got. So I got a lot, and it was very reasonably priced. So that is a mass airflow harness that's in excellent condition. My harness is very cut up. I had to put a bunch of ends on it. There's a lot of soldering. And best thing we could do is get rid of it. Even better to be able to get rid of the mass airflow system, which causes a lot of issues. GM abandoned it after just 3 or 4 years. So I got enough stuff here to build 2 full systems, including that harness. This is a street performance harness, standalone, has its own OBD port and idiot light or check engine light, whatever you want to call it. That's a standalone harness. You can put TPI in anything with that harness. It has a computer with a chip in it. That chip, I don't know if it's even for the mass airflow system or not. We'll find out. I got a box of bolts and miscellaneous parts. Looks like one of these was taken apart at some time, and they just threw all that stuff in there. There's a whole slew of brand new gaskets. I've got a throttle body there. There's a throttle body over here. This throttle body has the air separator in it. I've never had one of those. I don't know if it actually helps, but we're going to install this one because we have it. I have, all these runners. Of course, that's a whole system with a pretty nice K&N filter still on it. It needs to be cleaned. I do have a kit for that. Not here, but I have one. That aluminum distributor cover, or that distributor cover is aluminum. So that one's off a Corvette. That one's plastic. So that one's from a Camaro, but the Corvette ones are fairly sought after because you can polish them or whatever and they hold up and they don't warp. And then I got a couple more things. I really don't know what that, it looks like almost Corvette-ish. I don't know. Anyways, it comes with a mass airflow sensor on it. But I'm pretty excited about what's in this box right here. Let me set this down and we're going to look at it. Let's see if I can get it open. So, there's 6, I believe they're stainless steel balls. You're supposed to be able to run these through the runners, and it takes all the dents out of the air runners. I've never actually seen these in person. I'd read something about them many, many years ago. I got this set very, very reasonably. So I'll be able to run these through some runners. We'll have some really nice runners. I'm going to sell a good deal of this stuff. I'll probably keep one full setup and this painless kit harness for myself and put that up. And then we're going to use that computer and this wiring harness. That's actually what I went after. And then I'll probably end up selling a bunch of this because I don't have a place to put it all. And I'd rather it be in somebody's hands that might use it. Also, I think he said 2 of the intakes were the later model heads and 2 were the earlier model heads. I'm really not sure about that. I looked at them, but I can't remember what I saw now. It's just so much of it. So I'm going to clean up this mess. And then I think I'm going to start taking the harness out of this car so we can get this one put in. I'm really excited about this. Being able to get rid of the mass airflow system in this car is a big deal. It has been a minute. So for some of the newcomers to the channel, this old girl has been on here for a minute. She's been through some things and seen some stuff and whatever. I've thrown a ton of money on this car. And honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. This motor's coming out. Not right now, but it's gonna come out. But I just need her to run. I just need it. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. I should stop spending money on this thing and move on. pull the motor and trans, LS swap it, and just be done. But I'm not going to. I've acquired these parts, so we're going to throw it in it. But here's my thoughts. The mass airflow sensor is that's the only code the car has, but it won't run. So I've got several different sensors, mass airflow sensors. They all do the same thing. I think it's a wiring harness issue. If you'll remember, I've had to solder so much of this wiring harness. It was in such bad condition. So we're just going to eliminate it and put in a different harness. I picked up a used harness. It's in pretty good shape. I've went over it. It looks good, except the only thing that doesn't look great is the alternator plug has been butchered, but we'll fix that. And I have a brand new ECM for it. So we'll get all that taken care of. See if we can get this old girl to run. Yeah. I really like to drive this car a little bit. So anyways, I'm going to throw y'all on a stand, and I'm going to see if I can't pull out the wiring harness and see what's up. Well, it's been like 2 weeks since I shot that last video that I worked on the car for like 3 hours. But anyways, I'm going to show you what I got done, and then I'm going to show you what I'm getting ready to do, and I'm just going to keep working. We're going to pretend like nothing ever happened and move on with life. Alright, so you can see I have most of the harnesses kind of laying up on top for the engine. The only places it's still really hooked up is it goes through the inner cowl area back down underneath the fender. I'm really trying not to take the fender off if I can help it, because I just don't want to. I'm lazy. That's just the truth behind it. And I think I can get it out. We'll see. Also, the transmission has to be unplugged. Car has to be jacked up for that. So I'm going to try to undo that over here and see if I can get it or not. And if I can, then I'll pull that out, plug the other one in, and then jack it up and unplug the transmission and plug it back in all at the same time. That'll save me some effort. So that's the plan. I do have a distributor out. I had to switch to the other smaller style distributor. I just bought a brand new one. And yeah, so we'll see how it goes. And I'm going to go in here and try to get that unplugged underneath the dash and through the cowl. We'll see how that goes. I wanted to show y'all what I was talking about in here. Right here is where the wiring harness comes through the cowl. And that's actually already pulled up. That clip is what holds it in place. Interesting. Anyways, doesn't matter. We're going to take it out. So, and it really doesn't hook up anywhere. It hooks up right here, which goes up under the dash, and then to the actual computer itself, which isn't even the computer that the car came with. This is the one I'd bought when I got all those parts down in Georgia. I'm going to include part of that, I think, at the first of this video. I'm pretty sure I will. So, anyways, I'm going to unhook all this and see if we can feed this wiring harness through the firewall and the other one back without taking that fender off. I do not want to take that fender off. I know I've already mentioned that, but I just don't want to deal with it. All right, so on the passenger side, you can reach up in here. There's a clip up there. I'm going to show it to you. You've got to unhook that to get this out. I'd forgotten about it. It's been a minute, but I've actually already done this one. I wanted to make sure I could get it. That's actually the mast for the antenna. Let me see here. That right there. Gotta undo that, and then the wiring harness will should pull right through the firewall or cowl or whatever down here, and then you can pull it out through the engine bay. All right, so I got it out. I ended up pulling it all through the fender well and out instead of into the engine compartment because the fitting that goes through the cowl down here didn't want to fit through the opening. That's right there. I'm going to try to fit the other one through there to get it back in, but I don't know that I can. It was definitely a pain to go the direction I went. It would be easier if I could go the other way, but we'll see. All right, so I got it fed down through there. What I ended up doing was taking the top half of that off as part of the connector that goes through that cowl. It'll snap back on. I probably cleaned it up, put a little silicone on it, so it's watertight again. But I got that down through there. Kind of roughly laid out the harness just so it's not in a pile. And so some people are put off by wiring. I'm going to give you a little piece of advice. Pick something that you know is right and go from there. So, for instance, I know this is the starter wires and the knock sensor. I know that for sure. Can't go anywhere else. If that goes in down to the starter, just keep working your way through. And you're going to have stuff that you don't recognize, especially we're switching from an 86 to what I'm pretty sure is an 89 harness because it has the different style relays. But yeah, that way as you go, you just have to find a few things, not everything. That's how I do it. Other people may do it differently. Heck, there may be better ideas in this comment section. So, but that's how I do it. So I'm going to get back after it, but it's not too awful bad. These cars didn't, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, but it's not that bad. If you ever think this is crazy, go pop a hood on a 90s or early 2000s BMW. It's a nightmare. I don't even know how you work on one of those things. Anyways, I'm going to get back to it, and I'll show you as I kind of go what I got going. So I'm getting ready to stuff this back in the cowl area in here. I put this on. I put some silicone in there just to seal it back up so it wouldn't have any water leaks. I'm going to stab this back through there, which you all really can't see, but I'm going to do that right quick. And I've routed some of this stuff up here, and I'll just keep working my way around. So far, so good. There are some differences, and I knew that. We will have to figure those out as we go. All right, so I was coming along smashingly, man. Just going right through it. Got my harness plugged in over here to the main bulkhead. Got the relays put in. Started looking around the wires, just kind of figuring out what was left. This big guy right here is for the later model windshield wipers, or windshield wiper motor, which is fine. I don't care. I'd get one. And then I noticed there was something missing. This harness is actually for a straight shift car, which is cool. If you have a straight shift car, I don't. The 700R4 needs a signal to lock the converter. It's not done from the computer. I'm not exactly sure what locks the converter, I'll just be honest. But I know it has a 4-pin connector, and I don't have one. So, yeah. So while I'm going through all this, I find this. It's a burnt plug for a relay. Here's the relay. So the fan, I'm not terribly concerned. It's bad, whatever. We'd have got one for it. But then I noticed, where did it go? Here we are. This plug. Now this plug probably doesn't mean much to most of you by looking at it, but I know exactly what it goes to. It's a mass airflow sensor. I was trying to get away from the mass airflow sensor. All the stuff I bought was to get away from the mass airflow sensor. So, yeah. Man, I'm really bummed out about that. So, I was hoping to go to a mass air pressure, get away from this. That was really causing us a lot of problems. It's really, it's pretty upsetting. So, yeah, I don't know. Man, I thought I'd looked at it good. But anyways, that's a bummer. Well, I've had some time to think about it and made a few decisions. I have decided that, I'm not going to work on this motor anymore. Done with it. After all the time and money I've put in it, the motor itself, I really don't have that much money in the motor as far as like stuff I bought for it. It's really not that much. But I do have a lot of money in the car. So I don't feel like I'm really losing anything by going ahead and ditching this 305. This 305, it's, they're like 185 horse or something like that, I think, on their best day. I don't remember exactly in 86, but something like that. So, it's not a big power plant. We're not losing anything by pulling it out. But I just wanted to drive the car for a while. I really did. I just wanted to get it out and just beat on it a little and just have a good time. I appreciate all the support from everybody. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, and we'll just keep on going. Surely y'all didn't think it was going to be over that easy. There's one thing I'm really, really bad about, and that's giving up. I don't give up real easy, even when I should. And I'm going to just go ahead and tell you I probably should. But there's something else that came in all that stuff I bought like 2 months ago now. I'm going to show it to you, and we're going to go over it, and we're going to go over how I didn't want to use it, but here we are, and we're going to try it anyways. So this box is one of the reasons I went and bought all that stuff and what's inside of it. That is a brand spanking new harness. It's an aftermarket harness from Street and Performance. I don't even think Street and Performance is still around. I really couldn't tell you. But I do know that we have a brand new harness. In this harness is meant for an automatic car. Look at that. It is a mass airflow car. Mass airflow sensor. This thing is brand new. But it's meant for an aftermarket setup, like you put this in a hot rod or whatever. Comes with its own OBD2 and engine light. Everything, relays, just every single thing you need, pretty much, except for the engine and a distributor, some basic stuff. So I'm going to tear back into this car, take out what I've put in, and we are going to look at how to put in an aftermarket wiring harness. And it's not nearly as hard as people make it out to be. I've already put way too much effort into this. I really should just stop and pull this motor out and just LS swap it and be done. But we have this, and I want to drive this car. So, with that being said, let's get to work. So I got all the harness kind of laid out here. I just wanted to look over it all and kind of make sure I understood it all before I got started. Probably a good idea for everybody. If you're going to wire something, you should do that. Then I pulled out the instructions and look at the date, 12/3/07. That's when they were printed, using the best technology had to offer. Actually, the printer is terrible. So I got to reading through the instructions and looking over the harness, and those instructions in this harness do not match. So I don't even know for sure if this is a Street and Performance TPI wiring harness or not, and I'm pretty sure I can figure it out on my own, but I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to have to do. Got looking at it a little better. It is definitely a harness for an early model, 85, 86 style, because it has a 4-pin connector for the distributor, like I took out trying to get away from. I'm going to put mine back in, I guess. I hate that I even pulled it out to begin with, so we'll time this thing and strap the distributor back in, and we're just going to lay all this on here and plug it all up as best we can to figure it out. Then start the car. If it runs, I'll put this in a loom. I'm not going to loom probably any of this until I get it in there. And it lays in differently than it would in a, like a stock harness. So we'll see. I don't even know where I'm going to mount the ECU. Anything. So anyways, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and pull the old wiring harness out, and we'll start laying this in place and just see how it goes. All right, so got that harness out on the bench. We're going to have to go back to the original secondary engine harness that came with this car, which I was going to have to actually integrate into that other one anyways, just because of some of the way some of the stuff was wired up. No big deal, but I'm going to put this one back in right quick. There might be 15 total plug-ins total, but our ignition source stuff is for the starters in this harness. So I'm going to throw this one back in, and we'll go from there. All right, I've got all that in, wired across. The only thing I had to pull out of the other harness was this right here. It plugs in right there. One of them is the pressure sender for the gauges, and the other wire is this green wire, and that is AC command. I think it's when you turn the AC on, it tells the computer that the AC is on, so the computer knows to idle the engine up. So now I'm going to start kind of tracking this out a little bit. I'm probably about done for the day. I've got a little kid's birthday party to attend, and my kids are way more important than this car is. So yeah, I'm going to do with this a little bit, and we'll see where we end up. Well, I'm back on it today. I've put in a few hours already, just trying to get all the wiring straightened out. Like I said before, I'm not hooking anything up permanent. If it runs, I may cut the entire harness apart and reloom it in a direction that I like. It doesn't flow well for this. It's meant, like I said before, it's meant to go on like a hot rod or something. I don't really know, but it's a standalone unit basically. But I thought I'd catch y'all up on where I'm at and what wires I have left and what I think about them. Well, here's the spaghetti. So, basically everything right in here is some relays that normally go over there, but the way they've got them loomed together is they're loomed together with the PCM. And then we got a few wires right here. We'll start with this. On this relay, I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be a fused power or keyed power. I got to figure that one out. I don't remember. And then this little guy right here is a fan relay. I'm assuming that's to the fan, or the signal to the fan. I really know. This says ignition, so yeah, power switched on. I don't know. And remember, the booklet I have does not actually match this at all. There's a park neutral right here. That will probably get just wired together so it thinks it's in park all the time. Let's see here. We got brake switch. Why does this harness need to know that? Don't know. Unless it's for the torque converter. I bet it is. I'll have to figure that out. That is right. I just wasn't thinking about it till now. I've got the knock sensor already hooked up down there. It's got a couple wires that go to the starter. All these wires go to the starter. Let's see. Distributor, we know what that is. These two, green and blue one, I've got wrapped up right there and kind of just stored away. Those are for the AC, both of them are. Ground, I've not got that hooked up yet. This right here, back here is EGR. We're not going to use that. The temp manifold temp is hooked up. All the injectors are hooked up. The throttle position sensor, man, I went crazy there for a minute. I just couldn't remember. It's hooked up. IX hooked up. I still haven't hooked up the water temp. I put a new one on it yesterday. By the way, that water temp, I bought a sending unit for it forever ago. Thought I put it in. I had not. I saw it laying on the bench over there, and I thought, you know what, I ought to put that in. And then I think there's just a couple more things over there, and I do have the plug for the, it'll be hard to see for y'all, but the plug for the transmission right there. So it's coming along. This is slow, tedious work. I'm just going to keep kind of plugging along at it, just one thing at a time. You figure it out and you move to the next one. So I'm just keep working at it. Oh yeah, and this wire that's kind of coming out here, that goes to the fuel pump. All that stuff hooks up underneath the dash in here. So I'll run it through and just tap into that connector, so it'll be fine. It also has the oil pressure sending unit deal where if the motor still has 5 pounds of pressure, it'll run even if the fuel pump relay dies or the fuel pump fuse dies. As long as the motor has 5 pounds of pressure, it'll still run. So I'm going to reuse this one, although it's not in the best of shape. I had to zip tie it on last time to make it stay, so we'll do that again. But anyways, I'm going to be back to it, and I'll let y'all know as this goes forward. All right, so I couldn't tell you what the last thing I updated was, but basically everything back there is hooked up except the distributor. I showed you this EGR valve and the AC lines that I had wrapped around there. We still haven't hooked up the fuel pump. I will have to hook that up. I do have the starter hooked up. I got most of the relays. I'm not really sure what this one does. I think that's got to be switched to power. I'm almost positive of it, but I got to figure that out for the fuel pump. Plug in an ECM, and then fan. I'm assuming that's going to kick the relay on for the fan. I really don't know. It doesn't have a fan relay. I already have one, which is fine. The brake switch, park neutral, and whatever this is, ignition. But we're going to ignore all that for a few minutes, and I think I'm going to bump the motor over. Maybe we'll talk about timing. I've avoided that, so yeah. Let's just do that. We'll throw a battery in it and hook it up and get this motor so I can bump it over. Let's do that. All right, let's talk timing. So I pulled the distributor in this thing, and I'm going to time it and put it back together. So pretty much any small block Chevrolet, well, they're all the same. But anything with a distributor, a mechanically driven distributor, is basically the same. You want the number one cylinder, and on this engine, it's right here, to be at top dead center, and then everything works off that. And it has to be on the compression stroke. So what I've done is pulled the number one plug wire, pulled the number one plug. Actually, I have all the plug wires off, but I've got the number one plug out. I'm just going to put my thumb over it. I've got my loser switch because I ain't got no friends. And I'm going to push that button to bump the motor over until it builds compression and blows my thumb off. Then we'll find exactly top dead center and we'll start from there. Right there's top dead center. It blew my thumb off. Or maybe not TDC, but it's at least on a compression stroke. So let me show you what's next. So it might be a little tough to see, but I've marked the yellow line is the indicator on the crank, and we're going to turn that yellow line until it's on 0 on that indicator, and hope that that indicator is right because it's chrome and it didn't come with this car, but it should be pretty correct, I believe. So I'll turn it back to 0 and we'll start from there. All right, so I went ahead and turned it to 0. It's not a very good straight angle, but it's at 0, I promise. Next, we're going to drop the distributor in. Don't forget to put a gasket on it, which I'll slide mine on here in a minute. And I point my rotor button at number 1 cylinder. Is that right? I don't know. This is how I do it. And then I know where to start on the cap and go from there. You may have to turn the oil pump because the oil pump engages the bottom down here. And if you've got to do that, you can use a really long screwdriver. They make a tool for it too. And also the gear is helical cut. So when you stick this in, it's going to turn. So you don't just stick it in and then push it down, it'll just turn out of the way. So it actually kind of point it before where you want it, and then as it turns down, it kind of locks in place and engages the oil pump, and boom. That's number 1. That's a good place to start. If you're at 0, you can always get it running and then use the timing light to adjust it. And we'll do that when we get it all running. Let me see if I can get y'all in here to see this. It'll be tough, but there's so many wires in the way. But the distributor is seated. The hold down's on it. I'm going to tighten that hold down up so it's not just super loose. I have a hold down wrench. You really see these all the time anymore. People used to always have them. This one's old. It's a KD Tools, I do believe. Made in USA. But anyways, you can just tighten that nut down. You want to be able to spin this, but you don't want to be able to, for it just to walk around on its own. So I'm just going to snug that bolt up and we'll go from there. So that works, just reaches right down there on the bolt. Boom, just tighten her up. That'll get us good and snug. We can still move the distributor body a little bit, but it's not going to just walk around and do its own thing. Also note that I have that pointed at the number 1 cylinder up here. All right, I'm going to put the cap back on it and get all that plugged in, and we'll start putting the plug wires back on this thing. It's getting close to firing it up. Also, if we get it fired up and it runs, and we'll shut it right back down, basically, and tear this wiring harness apart and rewire it one more time the real way and put it in a loom and lay it out better because it's not laid out well for what we're using it for. But I just want to see if we can even get this motor to run again. It hadn't been running. It tried to run. It had all kinds of issues. So let's see if this will make it run. So I got everything wired back up. We got it wired up in the firing order: 1, 8, 4, 3, 6, 5, 7, 2. We can still move the cap some. It don't like it, but it will move. There is room, so we should be fine on adjusting. And I've got to hook a few more things up for the computer and whatnot, and we will test fire this girl and see if she'll fire up. I still got to hook up the fuel pump, and we're going to temporarily hook the ignition source up to here. I'm pretty sure that's got to be hot. This on the fuse got to be hot, so we'll run it to the battery as well for now. And that should get us to the point we can just crank it. And that's all really what I'm looking for. So, things I don't know about that I'm guessing. I'm guessing that's supposed to get an ignition switch signal. And then there was an ignition wire, which is this one, to set ignition on it. I assume that it needs to get power from the ignition. I'm not going to run it from the ignition right now, but I am going to run it through a fuse holder to the battery. Then I needed a ground for the fuel pump. So I'm using some alligator clips that go up here to the strut that go down here, which are precision spliced in. I'm sure y'all can see that. It's beautiful, isn't it? Well, it's time to do some sketchy shit, and I hope I get away with it. I'm going to hook up the mass airflow sensor. That's it. We're going to turn this thing over and see if she'll start. All right, I'm going to hook up this power cable, and we'll see if it'll even turn over and start or whatever. So, wish me luck. Fuel pump's on, so that's a good sign. Won't even turn over, so not a good sign. Let me figure that out. I'll get back to you. All right, so I've hooked up my loser switch. We're just going to bypass the ignition. I don't care. I'm going to turn the ignition switch on just so it's on, but literally, it's a standalone system. It shouldn't need that. Yeah, we're just going to hit the button and see what happens. See it. That's the best this thing's done, and I don't know how long. Boom, it's idling. I'm going to call that running. Not well. There we go. The best this thing has ran since I've had it together. Oh my goodness. Well, man am I happy, and that is sketchy. By the way, it wouldn't start because it was in gear or in neutral. Smoky in here. Sorry, we almost about fell and died. I'm gonna turn it off. Boom. I'm happy about that. I've been sick for like the past 4 days. Not terribly sick, just exhausted, just like completely exhausted. So I'm feeling better. I'm glad I got to put the time in today on this thing, and I'm super happy to have heard it run. She wasn't running perfect. We still got to set the timing exactly, blah blah. Who cares? It runs again. That's the best it's ran since the day before I was trying to go on power tour, and I am stoked. So that's the original ECM and prom for the computer. Man, I am just so stoked. So today is Wednesday. Normally I put out a video on Tuesday, and y'all just had to wait because I've been sick or whatever. I just haven't felt like doing this. So let me tell you, next week I'm going to wire loom this thing up, and we're going to go for a drive again. We've got to go test this thing out next week. Tell your friends if they've been watching and they've quit watching or whatever. Yeah, tell them it's back at least for one more episode. I don't know that it will do it, but I think this car owes us a burnout. So let's see what we can make happen about that next week. I've got several days to figure on it, work on it, so I'm going to get back to it. Thanks for watching. Give me a big thumbs up if you've made it this far. I really appreciate it. What a video, right? It's sketchy, though, but we're there. So, yeah, I'm going to throw this thing together next week, get the wire loom all sorted out, and we'll go from there. And with any luck, we're going to go for a nice test drive and a big smoky burnout. That's what I want to do. Anyways, thanks for watching.